Welcome to Toronto TV. Today we have a special guest who is the expert in poultry industry, who is Jimmy Lee. Jimmy, hello. Rebecca, hello.
Hi.
Hi, Jimmy. Hi.
Hi. Yeah. Okay. Hi, Jimmy. Can you talk about your immigrant experience to Canada?
Yes. Well, I immigrated to Canada at about 10 to about 12 years old, because I was born in Trinidad. My parents, well, basically my grandparents moved there during the Second World War, and that's where and then my mom and dad immigrated there because my grandparents just cannot do hard labor when they come to Canada or the United States, so they move over there. So I was born over there, and then I immigrated to Canada at about 10 to 12 years old. I went to high school here, but I can speak a lot of Cantonese, but I'm not very fluent in it as much as people from Hong Kong. Okay.
Yeah.
Better than mine.
Well,
I'm Mandarin speaker.
Oh, well, that is good. I don't understand any Mandarin.
So your grandparents, from China to Trinidad. So yes. Where's your hometown in China?
My hometown in China was basically, what's it called? Oh, yeah, Gonghui.
Gonghui, Guangdong province?
Guangdong province, yes.
Okay.
That's what my father tells me, and that's what my mother tells me.
Guanghui is Hakka, Chuzhou, or?
It's not Hakka for sure.
Okay.
It's, yes, it is, Sunwui.
Sunwui. Oh, I got it. Okay, Sunwui.
That's what my parents tell me.
Okay. Have you been going back to hometown before?
I went back a few years ago, but I got close to it, but I never got to Sunwui. I heard Sunwui has a lot of famous for, orange peels and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just listening to what my parents tell me.
That's it. So you say you came to, as a teenager, you come to Canada. Do
Yes.
you face any difficulty adapting to Canadian lifestyle, or you got any bullying experience?
Not really, because when I was in Trinidad, there wasn't a lot of people that was really basically trying to pick on you. So I didn't experience a lot of that here. But then again, when you're in Trinidad with a lot of Black people, you learn to be very tough. You try not to get bullied around. And I had, two sisters and a younger, brother who was younger than me anyway. So, but, we never experienced that here. I went to, grade school here, then I went to high school, and then I went to university over here.
So what do you study in university?
At university, I went to University of, Guelph, and I studied basically some of the animal and poultry science, because at that time my father wanted to start a small business to make extra money. That was in 1970. So basically, when I went to high school and I went to university, my father has started a small business, so I thought it would be wise to actually study some of the agriculture stuff to help my father out. Mm-hmm. And that way I can be a little bit more sort of more knowing that particular type of business, so that a lot of government regulations would not sort of impede my father's particular business at that time. So I studied animal and poultry science for 4 years. I have a Bachelor of Science in agriculture. So that's and then after that, worked for my dad for his business, and I ran his business for another, 20 years. And then after that, my father decided to retire. So basically, my dad sold his business to a company called Sergeant Farms. And at that time, Sergeant Farm, they wanted me to kind of help them run their business because they're just my father's business. So after that, I was farm for about 5 years, and I started my own business again, which is in the year 2001, somewhere in that range there. I started another company in the poultry business, but this was a federal plant. So this was not a provincial plant, because before Sergeant Farms and my father's business were provincial plants. So I started a federal plant, so that way I could export stuff and I could import stuff from the United States too. So from then on, I started that particular business with another person, which is my partner, Joseph Wong. And after 10 years, I sort of decided to sort of say, this is enough for me. I have spent practically 35 years of my life in the poultry business and studying everything else. And I said, it's time to kind of take it easy. So I decided to sort of semi-retire and maybe do something else.
So that means you have enough money and enjoy yourself now.
I invested in some real estate, not a lot of money, but some real estate and some other things anyway.
Good to live enjoyable right there. Okay.
That's right.
Backtrack a little bit. So you say your father took you to Canada. So what's the reason your father immigrated from Trinidad to Canada?
Well, the reason he immigrated from Trinidad to Canada was because during that time there was a big problem going on in the United States called Black power, and that was affecting some of the Caribbean islands too. Mm-hmm. So my dad thought that's not a good place to have his family there, so we immigrated to Canada instead of going to the United States, because there was some racial problems going on, I think, during that time. And my dad didn't like what was going on there, and he saw a lot more better opportunity here in Canada because of the diverse cultures over here compared to the United States, where there was a lot of racism and stuff like that between blacks and whites and everything like that. So that's the main reason.
I think it's a very good choice.
I would hope so.
Yeah, when we covered by the provincial, like the health program, I think we are very lucky. We don't need to put our money from our pocket in the insurance.
Yes.
And we get covered, right? Comparing Americans.
Yeah.
Okay, so you say you are in poultry business. What's the meaning of poultry? Chicken, duck, goose?
The poultry business includes basically chickens.
Birds.
It mainly refers to basically chickens, actually.
Okay.
Not so much ducks in that sense, because first of all, the poultry have three sections.
Mm-hmm.
There is the growing section, there is the egg section, and then there is the chick section.
Chick section? What's chick?
Okay. Before you can make some meat,
mm-hmm.
you have to have eggs to hatch into chicks.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Now those particular chicks,
I see, small chickens
have to be put into a barn. Yeah, those small little chickens have to be put into a barn, and normally those barns are very big. Those barns hold roughly about somewhere between 13,000 to about 200,000 birds in a barn. It depends on the size of that particular barn. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, when I tell you there is three sections, now there is the section with with just, eggs. And there is that particular section with the eggs. Those are not fertilized eggs. So they never become chicks. Okay. So those are the ones we eat at the store, which you buy every day.
Okay.
Now people see, brown eggs, white eggs, organic eggs.
Yeah.
Basically, the particular type of eggs, brown eggs, white eggs, is because of the breed of the chickens that lay those eggs and they become white or brown. But the nutritional value of those eggs, there is no difference whatsoever.
It's just for color, you like it or not.
Yeah, I mean, there is a very small difference, very minuscule, difference with that.
Yeah.
Nothing, right?
Even some egg put omega-3 or they are more yellower, right?
No, the reason the eggs become more yellow is because they feed it more corn.
Oh.
The more corn they feed it, it has more lysine in the corn, which gives it that more yellowish.
Yeah.
Now we know that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when they say, the omega
free run
eggs, free run chickens, all of the First of all, let me tell you this, okay?
Marketing
all of those eggs, which everybody eats, those eggs are actually, there is about five or six birds, or somewhere between 5 and 6 birds. They are in a cage, right? And they lay eggs. And they lay eggs roughly for about 1 year. And then they get slaughtered. Okay. And they replenish it again. So those are a little bit different than the birds we are consuming for meat, because those chickens are very small and they are genetically there just to lay eggs only. They are selected just to lay eggs. But those eggs are not fertilized because there is no male chicken there. Okay, so those eggs are not fertilized at all. Okay, so now you go into the other section where they have, those particular chickens for meat. Now, those ones for meat, you have to have a different set of hens, and those hens are very big, and they lay eggs for about 1 year too. But there is 5 hens and 1 rooster, and the rooster fertilizes the eggs, and those eggs are taken to the hatchery to be hatched out, which takes 21 days exactly to hatch a baby chick out. Okay, now once that is hatched out, those guys send all those baby chicks to the farm to be raised for meat. Now, all of those baby chicks, depending on the farm, what size that the farm contracts from the processing company, they will raise those particular chickens to a certain size. Some of it goes to, Kentucky Fried Chicken. Some of them goes to Swiss Chalet because those companies have a certain size that they require from the processing company. Companies like Maple Leaf, Maple Lodge, and so forth. Those are the larger companies.
Do they also separate the female and the male chicks?
Yes, they do. They do separate the male and the female chicks. The female chicks goes into making some of the smaller chickens, like the, KFC, the, Kentucky Fried Chicken, the Swiss Chalet, and stuff like that. The male one goes into large meat production. So every time there are companies who actually purchase meat. So they want to raise birds as large as possible. And certain plants only process large birds, and certain plants only process a certain size birds for that.
Interesting.
Yes.
So you mean small and large?
Yeah.
What's the weight difference? Maybe say 3 pounds below is small, and then
2 pounds.
Yeah.
Well, let's put it this way. Normally, it takes around somewhere between 28 and 35 days from the baby chick at the 1 day old to about somewhere between 28 and 35 days, depending on the size that the farm has to contract for the processor. Okay. So basically, what you're gonna have is all of those are basically female chicks, mostly, right? Some of the larger ones where those guys sex it to male chicks. So basically, what happens is that some of the plants only process large birds for meat production, which can go into further processing, like for example, chicken, Kiev and things like that, and chicken fried rice, which is vacuum packed, and all those chicken dinners and stuff like that. So that's what a lot of those things go into. So sorry, I sort of.
Yeah, that's okay. I think I still understand that. Yeah. So then
it's very, very impressive.
Then let's see. Once we see like chicken, we have like female chicken, and then the male chicken is are there any different types? For example, like American chicken or Asian chicken?
Okay.
How many types?
Yes. People want to know what's the difference between certain types of chickens that some of the restaurants have, which is, for example, Long Kong Gai, right? Or Zhao Bei Gai or something like that, right? Okay. Anytime you see something like Long Kong Gai or Long Kong Gai is a different breed of chicken. Okay, it's not your regular white chicken. Now let's kind of go back a little bit. All of the white chicken that a lot of the plants process, right? Those particular chickens are selected from a whole bunch of different breeds to have the best meat production at the fastest growing rate. And first of all, before anybody goes crazy, there is never any hormones put in any of the chickens in Canada. I can't speak about any other country, but I know for sure Canada, it is absolutely not allowed to put any hormones in any animal at all.
Hormone free,
So it's all safe.
It is all safe.
To children,
Yes. Okay. There is no such thing as hormones going into any animals in Canada. Okay.
I was thinking the meat chicken in like the supermarket, not Chinese supermarket. I was thinking their legs are so big, so maybe they eat something.
No. The reason those are big is because those are the male chickens. Because male chickens grow faster than female chickens. Female chickens, put on more fat. Male chickens put on more lean as you raise them longer. But the most important thing is that they are selected for fast growing and for feed efficiency. Because some of the feed we feed them are some of the best feed. So when they eat that feed, they actually convert that feed into meat faster than most other chickens. So what they do is those guys select all of the best types of breeds that actually put more weight on in terms of breast. Now North America is a white meat consumption, basically, continent. So most people want white meat because it's more healthier, less fat, right? So that's the reason why in Canada and the US, they are always concerned about white meat. So they grow chickens for white meat purposes because of that. Now, when somebody says it's, free run chickens, all of the chickens are running in the barn very freely. That is only a some sort of way to actually get you to pay more for that chicken. All of the chickens are free run. All of the chickens are grain fed. All of the feed is from grains.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there's no difference there. Okay.
So the Saudi鸡looks like a
smaller
and
smaller, right?
And
skinner,
yeah, more muscle. When you eat, it's chewable. It's harder, the meat.
Okay.
Right?
Some of the Longgang chicken, which is a different type of chicken, those take longer to raise because that is a different breed of chicken. You have to feed it longer to get that size because that's a different breed. They don't select that for meat production. They only select it for the taste. So that's why only certain farms, not a lot of farms, raise those type of chicken. And then there is only 2 or 3 plants that actually kill those kind of chickens. Okay. So there's only maybe 2 or 3 plants that actually started. And most of those plants are not federally. Those are provincial plants. So they can only sell them in Ontario. Okay, one of the things you have to know is that, provincial plants can only sell their meat in Ontario, whereas federal plants, whereas federal plants can sell it to other provinces and to, different countries.
Different export.
When you talk about processing plants.
Yeah. When I did remember I saw a movie before. It's a chicken farm, and then they put all the chickens in the cages. And then the story tells like the owner switch on and off the light. So when you switch on daytime, then you can eat. And then turn off the light. And they say, no, sleep. Sleep.
No.
And then
never sleep.
It does not happen that way. It does not happen that way.
So this is a story, not a reality.
When you're talking about meat, when you're talking about meat production, there's a certain light schedule for the chickens. Okay. So they give those chickens a certain amount of light every day and certain amount of darkness every day.
Yeah.
Okay. So when there is light, there is feed because all of those farms, they are very computerized.
Yeah.
There is automatic feed coming through. There is automatic water coming through all the time, right?
Yeah.
And certain times they will have no feed because it's time for the chickens to not eat that much because they only feed them a certain amount of feed. So that's for the meat production. So certain times there is enough light for the chickens, to grow, and there's certain darkness for the chickens to take a rest. Yeah. So that's normal in a huge barn. That's what happens. When you're talking about, the egg production, that's a different story. They're in a little cage with about 5 chickens, but those are very small chickens. Those chickens are basically bred for egg production only. They don't weigh very much. Those chickens probably weigh maybe 2.5 pounds, 3 pounds roughly.
Okay.
But they are specifically there to lay eggs for people to consume because they are not fertilized.
They are lucky.
Okay? Yeah, right. So,
their life is longer.
Yeah, no, their life is about 1 year.
1 year.
And then
1 year is better than 30 days.
Yeah. So that's the life of a chicken. It's roughly about 1 year.
Okay.
Especially if you're laying eggs. But when you talk about meat production,
a month.
Those chickens are there only for about 28 to 35 days. That's for the smaller chickens. But for the larger chickens, it's about 45 to about 50 days. And then it goes to slaughter. Now, each farm can actually raise chickens probably about 6 times a year. So when you talk about that, okay, so say if somebody has about 20,000 chickens, you could raise that 6 times a year, right? So
multiple 6.
So
right?
Yeah, roughly. It depends on what the particular contract is with the processor. And don't forget, all of this is all under a marketing board. There is a quota system for all this stuff. So the marketing board, determines from all of the processors how much production is required in the next 6 months. So that's trying to forecast what's happening in the next 6 months.
Okay.
And it's hard to forecast what's happening in the next 6 months because you have to also find enough eggs to hatch enough chicks for that production. If you can't get enough eggs, you have to import eggs from the United States to get that production. Sometimes you have too much eggs. So it's a very fine balancing act there, okay? But the marketing board controls that, and the marketing board controls the egg production for people to consume too. Because if there's too much eggs, the price goes down and the farmer doesn't make any money, right? So they try to balance everything in that sense, right? But you have to remember, this is all under, quota. And all of that particular quota is worth a lot of money to the farmers. So those particular quotas are in units. How many units that the farmer is allowed to raise? One unit depending on what size of chickens he's raising, with the processor will determine how many chicks he has to put into the farm. Okay, it's a little bit complicated when it gets.
This industry a lot of limitation and.
Yes, there's a lot of limitations.
Administration, right?
Yeah, but we actually, control it here. Whereas some countries, they don't control it, and it's very, very cheap. But then you have a lot of problems because people take shortcuts to put out something that's very cheap.
Yeah.
Now, one of the main things over here, which most people don't realize, is that here, every time we ship out one set of, chickens, they clean and they fumigate and they disinfect the whole barn before they put the next batch in. In the United States, they don't do that. As soon as those guys send out one set of chicks, they just put in some, sawdust, and they put the next batch in. They don't clean anything.
So it could be very dangerous, right? So
yeah, it could be very dangerous. We like to keep it safe because the marketing board makes sure you control all of the diseases and stuff like that as much as possible. So there's no cross contamination all the time.
I see.
Now, I can't say that is going on all of the time in the United States, but it does happen where they don't clean out the barn because they need to have so much production. Now, don't forget the United States have a lot of people compared to Canada, whereas the United States have 300 million people. We only have 30 million people here. So it's about 10 times as much as what we have here.
Yeah.
So they have to feed a lot more people. And don't forget, over here we have a lot of hot and cold weather because we are more north. So we have to control that particular barn very carefully, right? In the United States, they mostly grow most of their chickens in the south, right? So they can have a lot of production. But I can't say too much about the United States. I can only tell you what happens here, what I learned from before. And it's just being in the industry for about 35 years of my life, almost 40 years.
Yeah, my relatives always complain that, the taste of chicken in Hong Kong is much better than in Canada.
Yeah.
Any particular reason?
Everything, even the cucumber, spinach, yeah.
Well, I can't say anything about Hong Kong. I don't know how they raise their chickens, but it seems like if they have a lot more problems when it comes to, diseases, where those guys have to kill all of the chickens and there is no chickens available. That's a problem. Because I think one of the problems in Hong Kong is that they must have it sort of, they must have some sort of, government control where they have inspectors that will not be bribed.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think we don't go into government regulation. we talk about the taste. Okay.
Yeah.
Is it because the different breed? I believe the breed in Hong Kong is different from the one in Canada, right?
Yeah.
So also here we look at the Canadian chicken, as Rebecca say, so huge, so big.
What they eat is different, I think.
In Hong Kong, always small chicken, right?
Yeah. Well, basically Hong Kong and in the Far East, they have a different breed of chickens.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not the same breed we have over here.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the main thing.
Can we import those breeds to Canada?
We can try to import those into Canada, but Agriculture Canada will have to. They have very strict regulations for that, because they don't want to bring any diseases from over there and putting it over here. Because if that happens, we're gonna have a bigger problem here, and that could destroy the whole poultry industry over here too. That's why they have very strict regulations for that. We have already tried to actually, bring in certain types of breeds from over there. But when you look at it, I think we're doing pretty good over here. And the food is very safe over here compared to most countries. Yeah. I don't think we are doing too bad over here, even though we don't get the same taste but over there. But we get something that is not that bad, actually.
Safe, right?
Yeah.
And another question. When we buy the whole chicken, some with head, some without head.
Than something that is different.
Okay. I'll repeat my question. Say, when we go to the supermarket, sometimes we can buy the whole chicken or just buy parts of the chicken. Chicken wing, chicken thighs. For the whole chicken, sometimes we see that you can get a head. Some without a head. So what's the difference?
Oh, that was created by me and my father a long time ago. Because
so you're the source. Yeah.
We actually, we made a big case to Agriculture Canada.
Okay.
Saying that for the Chinese tradition or for the Chinese culture, okay, we must have to process the chickens with the head and feet on.
Okay.
Because you know how the Chinese say, "Yo tao, yo mei."
Yes,
bison, right? So we made a big petition to them, and they agreed to that as long as we are catering to the Chinese community for that. Okay. It doesn't happen all the time, but it happens most of the time because most of the chickens with the head and feet are going to the Chinese supermarkets. Not a lot of English supermarkets carry. Now, some of the English supermarkets can carry it if they want to, if they have Chinese customers. That there's nothing wrong with that. But that was because of us making a big case way back in I guess not in around 1980s, around there, where there was a lot of changes going on in the industry, and we made a big case because we had people lining up every Chinese New Year in the Kensington market from here all the way down the street, just waiting to
buy the chicken.
To buy the chicken with the head and the feet on.
The whole chicken.
Yes. Yeah. The whole chicken, right?
Actually, we don't eat turkey. We eat chicken, right?
Yeah. Chinese people love to eat chicken. It's a main thing.
Yeah, it's like daily food, right?
Yeah.
Lots of you like chicken?
Yes, I love chicken. Even up to now, I still eat chicken all the time. I would rather eat chicken than I eat, pork.
Steak or pork, right?
Because you know it's safe and it's healthy, right?
Yeah, I know it's
the
safe.
Production. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And I think somebody told me before, like a long time ago in Chinatown, there's a slaughterhouse for chicken. And then some worker can make a lot of money because they get the whole chicken, they cut the head, cut the wings, and also cut the thigh. And each chicken process to get some money. Is that right? Or now it's going to automation?
Well, way back then, when my father started his small little business to make some money for the family, we just started out with about 500 chickens.
Okay.
Well, it started out with less. It was like about 30 chickens, and people would just come in live. They would pick up the chicken. They would feel up the chicken, make sure it's nice, and then we would slaughter each one for each customer. Then it got to the point where, Chinatown back then was by, Bay Street and somewhere between Bay Street and, University around there. Mm-hmm. Then a whole bunch of Chinese restaurants there asked us if we can send them chickens with the head and feet on. So we decided to sell 10 chickens at a time. So my father's business grew from, say, about 30 to 50 chickens to about 500 chickens within 2 or 3 years. Mm-hmm. Right? And then from 500 chickens being 5, then after, as time goes on, it became like 5,000 chickens every day. Mm-hmm. And that was when Chinatown moved from Bay Street all the way to Spadina area. Mm-hmm. And there was all these huge restaurants coming on at that time in the 1980s and everything else. And I was going to university, and then I had to come back on the weekend to help my dad deliver chickens. So that's where I learned some of my Cantonese, trying to learn from these cooks and everything. And it was a business that I just had to help out, And, going back to your question about, what particular, cuts of those chickens, at that time, we were throwing away all of the parts. Mm. Way back then, we were just, giving all of the parts to some of the employees and stuff like that. Then it came to the point where we had so much parts, we had to cut it up because we could make money from the parts, like the legs and the wings and the breasts and stuff like that. So there was a company called St. Andrew's Poultry that was in front of us, and we started cutting out chickens for them. Then my dad started a supermarket business up in, I think it's in by Steeles at what's that place called? Oh yes, Market Village.
Market Village, yeah, okay.
Yeah, when he started that, right? Mm-hmm. And he started that particular supermarket with a small little stall, and he grew into a huge place. Mm-hmm. And then I had to supply more chickens up to there. Then my dad opened up another store down in Scarborough on Shepherd. So I had to supply more chickens over there. So it got more and more and more. And then after that, my dad started one of the first Food Basics supermarket. He purchased one of the Food Basics. Mm-hmm. So then I had to supply about 20-something Food Basics by just cutting up chickens alone and packaging it. So I had 2 shifts going on every day, slaughtering roughly about 10,000 chickens a day, just trying to supply everybody 7 days a week, just going crazy, trying to supply all of the supermarkets. Okay. And I said, oh boy. So I ran all of that business while my father ran some of the supermarket business, and my wife ran some of it too, to, basically help me, downtown, and to help my father in the supermarket business too. So that's how the business became famous as Lee's Poultry way back in Hong Kong. And my dad was telling me this, but I don't know if that's true or not. So I couldn't tell you.
So
it grew so fast.
Yeah. it's a fast-growing business back then, but there is so much regulations now.
Yeah.
You cannot get into it right now. It'd be very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
So you're watching the industry grow, right?
Yes, it is growing a lot still.
Verified the whole process.
So
Yes.
besides your family, are there any Chinese running like poultry business, like your family?
Yeah, I think there's about 2 or 3 Chinese business that are still slaughtering those particular Chinese type of chicken, like the one like the Longkong chicken,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And some of the silky chickens, like the Juxi Kai.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So then,
There are companies who are doing, but they are all provincially regulated. They are not federally regulated.
And they are smaller in size, is that right?
Yeah, they are very small. Yes, in size compared to a Maple Lodge or a Maple Leaf or Sergeant Farms.
Yeah.
For that matter, yeah.
So it's how's it, controlled industry, huh? You can say
yes, it's a very controlled industry. Okay. Everybody makes money for sure.
Yeah.
From the people who are selling chicks to the people who are selling eggs to the people who are raising chickens. Can't say too much about the people who are processing the chickens because sometimes there is too much chicken.
I see.
And because the marketing board makes mistakes too, those guys forecast too much chicken. Yeah. And it's not actually perfect. Yeah. So it's hard. So some of the bigger companies have to sell chickens really cheap, like legs or breast
it's oversupply.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Are we facing the competition from the US? I think US is a bigger market and bigger resources.
Yeah, we are always facing competition from the US because the US always wants to sell more chickens in Canada.
Yeah.
But because we have a marketing board which controls that.
I see, they have quota. So how many?
Yeah, it is harder for them to actually come over into Canada, which is a good thing to some extent because sometimes you don't know what type of chickens, what sort of stuff is going on in the US. They have their own regulations, right? But then again, they have to meet our regulations before they can ship it over here, right? So there is also trade agreements between Canada and the US also too.
Yeah.
With agriculture, with milk, with chickens, with all sorts of stuff going on too. So.
So
always stay local.
Yeah,
stay
Canadian
local.
beef, Canadian chicken, Canadian milk. That's what I trust. I believe in.
Yeah. Because like 100%, there's no hormones going in any of it. Because the worst thing which I hear most people say is, oh, there must be hormones in this and that. There's absolutely no hormones. Agriculture Canada will find and they will penalize you very highly if you do any of that stuff. Besides, because when that particular baby chick goes into the barn, there is a record. You have to keep those records up to date for from the first day all the way to when the bird is being shipped. What sort of medication, what sort of feed, what sort of minerals going on. So there is a complete record before it goes to the plant. And when the inspector at the plant sees something wrong, he will not allow the plant to kill those chickens. He will send it all back to the farm, whether they like it or not. So nothing gets past the inspector. Okay, so, and those inspectors, they're very strict. Even if you try to buy the inspector a cup of coffee, he will not accept it. He's not supposed to accept those things. Okay, so everything is above board. The inspector will not do anything. If he sees there's something wrong from that particular record, he will not allow those chickens to be processed. So there's a complete record from day one all the way to the day that it's being slaughtered. And also, when that particular plant ships it out, it has to be a certain temperature before they could ship it out. So it's not like if, you could put it in a little car and ship it out to somebody. It has to be refrigerated. It has to be properly refrigerated. It has to be, properly packaged. It has to be properly, signed off on and everything else before it gets shipped out.
So every process is traced.
Yeah, every process is that's why they can trace anything back to the farm. And if they have to do it, they can trace it right back to the hatchery even. Because there's a record from the hatchery where these eggs come from, what happened to these eggs, maybe something went wrong with it, maybe something went wrong with the machine. They don't know, right? So there's a complete record of it. So there is no answer but. Yes.
Jimmy, for yourself, you eat organic chicken or normal chicken?
I eat normal chicken.
Trust everything. Yeah. So because organic is more expensive.
What? Okay, let me ask you.
Since you said no hormone and no biotics, so maybe.
No, I didn't say there is no antibiotics.
You didn't
antibiotics,
say,
okay? But the reason they put antibiotics is because if something happens, if the chicken gets sick, okay? But there's a record because when those chickens get sick, there's a certain period that those chickens have to be off of the antibiotics before they can be shipped to the plant for processing. Okay, so they have to recover, and they have to not have that in their system also too. But some farmers like to raise everything with no antibiotics. So certain feed companies make feed with no antibiotics, which might take that particular chicken a little bit longer to reach that size, right?
Okay.
So
and sometimes died half, then their cost is higher.
Yeah, it's of course it's a lot more higher.
Right?
Yes. They fit more longer time, right?
Yeah. And some died.
Like I say, basically time is money, right? So the more time you take, you got to pay more for it. And when you have to pay more feed, you got to pay more for the chickens too. So that's the way it goes. Right?
So select a good chicken. No need to be organic.
People buying organic. Look, let me be clear with you, okay? When people are buying the organic chicken, there's nothing wrong with the organic chicken. The organic chicken is like regular chicken, but it's raised a little bit different, okay? It's in the same barn. They have a little bit more room to move around. Normally it's probably 1 square foot per bird in a normal thing, okay?
It has a measurement.
Right? Yeah, okay, because of the size of the chicken, right? Roughly, okay? But when you're doing the organic chicken, there is, organic feed. Now, the organic feed has to come from a field that has been 7 years without any chemicals or any stuff on the feed, okay, in the soil when they grow the corn, when they grow the wheat or whatever it takes to make the feed. So that they're feeding it organic feed to the organic chickens. I mean, which is regular chickens because it's the same baby chicks. They can't change that particular baby chick, but they're feeding it a different feed that has no chemicals on the feed, no fertilizer, on the feed, which would be contaminated. Yes. So basically, they have to send it to the plant that actually makes organic feed to feed it organic.
High-end market.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah. Yes. Right. So some people feel they need that because of their health.
I feel I need because I have a 3-year-old daughter, so I always raise her organic.
Yeah, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with it, right? There's nothing wrong with it, right? I mean, some people like that, which is fine. That is that is a different segment of the poultry industry, which is fine too. There's nothing wrong with that. But some people just want to have some sort of a more natural way of the feed, not having fertilizers and chemicals on the corn and stuff like that. And the reason those guys have to put fertilizer is because they try to keep all of the bugs and stuff like that from eating all of the feed and the corn and stuff like that, and some of the diseases. Mm-hmm. So some of the corn and the stuff always also get diseases too. Mm-hmm. So when the corn and the wheat or the oats or the barley gets particularly diseases, mm-hmm. you lose a lot of that crop. You can only use a certain amount of that crop to go make that feed. So that feed becomes more expensive, mm-hmm. right? So that's the reason for that too.
Great.
Right?
So your father started the business, and then you carry the legacy, and then your father sold the business.
Yeah.
And there's no family legacy to carry on. Is that right? Or do you feel a little bit sorry?
For me, well, part of this thing was because my father sort of, inspired me, because my father he sort of wants to start his own business. So which made,
right?
Yeah, yes, like some sort of, entrepreneur. So I like to be that kind of person. I'm not crazy about working for other people, but I don't mind helping people, right? Mm-hmm. But I like to start my own business and, take certain risks for myself. So if it's for me to lose money, that's because I made that, decision. If it's for me to make that money, I made that particular, decision.
So you're in control.
So everything is on my shoulder, not on everybody else's shoulder. Mm-hmm. I like to work that way. So that's my, mentality. Mm-hmm. For some reason. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad.
No, that's no good or bad.
There's no good or bad. Yeah. It's the way that you feel about it, right?
Let the history tell you what's good and what's bad.
That's right, right? So,
yeah.
But
so that means you're no longer in poultry business.
I'm no longer in the poultry business, but I work for a particular company that actually sells meat. Mm-hmm. Right? It's in Food Basic. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's in the Food Basic by Major Mac and Bayview. There's a Food Basic there. Mm-hmm. There's a meat store there, mm-hmm. and I work there just trying to keep busy. But right now, I do a lot of investments for myself. I have a few
diversified investment, right?
Say again?
Diversified investment.
Yeah. Yes.
Different.
Yeah. I have passive.
Basket.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have a place in Aruba which mm-hmm. I go to. It is nice. Yeah. I go there maybe 2 or 3 times a year. Mm-hmm. I have a.
Oh, I went to Aruba.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Aruba.
It's Aruba.
Ah, I know there.
It is just north of Venezuela.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's beautiful there.
A lot of cruise parking in there as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cruise ships that go by there.
Yeah.
And, I just happened to actually found this place because of Sifu Paul Ng. He sort of put me onto this place and I decided to invest in it. That's all. But right now I do most is investing in stocks because I spend a lot of time learning about how to invest in stocks from a lot of, professionals. So yeah. I think I'm doing okay.
Did you get any money from Tesla during this time?
Was that?
Tesla.
Oh, Tesla? No. I don't buy those, high-flying stocks. That's not my style.
Okay. No, I'm not speculative, right? So.
No, I don't speculate like that. I have a system which I try to help certain people.
Yeah.
And I will. Yeah. But I don't give financial advice.
Yeah.
I tell people, if you have a stock you have in mind, you can ask me what's a good time to buy it. And I'll tell you what's a good time to buy it, and I'll tell you what's a good price to sell it. So there's a price you should buy it at, and there's a price you should sell it at.
Yeah.
That's all I tell you.
Risk taker, right?
Tolerance. Not that much risk. I will tell you, this is not a good stock for you to invest in because there is not enough volume in this. Or I could tell you, this is not a good stock because it doesn't pay you, any, dividends. So you're just going on something.
So hold it for a while instead of day trader. Day trader is better, right?
I don't day trade that much. I don't day trade a lot. I actually, I sort of invest more. Yeah. I don't day trade a lot.
Mm-hmm. So my last question is that does the name poultry mean anything to you?
The word poultry, it's a very general word.
Mm-hmm. For you, because you have been in the poultry business for 35 years, and then any special meaning to you or
emotion?
Oh. It's not much to, that particular, title of poultry, it's very, general to me. I feel that I know so much about it, and I still read a lot about, poultry, okay? It's not, that I don't read about poultry. I read about what's coming up, what new discoveries, new methods of processing and stuff like that. I still go to certain poultry shows, and I meet friends and stuff like that. But it does mean a lot to me because I happen to be one of probably the only Chinese person that actually went to University of Guelph in 1978 to study animal and poultry science, because there was nobody else that was Chinese that was studying that at all. And I thought, what the heck, I might as well study it because nobody else is studying it, So I thought, why not try to help out my father and my parents by studying it and maybe have a career in it somehow. So
make it more professional.
Basically, you're married to poultry for 35 years.
Yeah, I have a reunion coming up, a class reunion coming up this year, the 40-year reunion since I graduated in 1982.
Okay.
So it's 40th reunion coming up. I'm not sure if I can make it there for that particular time that those guys want, but we'll see.
Okay. Good. So, Rebecca, any other question you have?
No, thank you for sharing, Jimmy. I'm so impressed.
Oh.
And we all love chicken.
Okay. Yeah, don't be so impressed with what I know. It is just common knowledge that a lot of people don't know.
Yeah.
And I like to educate a lot of people that way, especially those people in Canada who always come from other countries where there is all sorts of stuff going on. And I don't want to name certain countries, about that, but there is always some sort of funny business going on. And I don't like that because that actually sets the whole industry back so many years and people don't trust it.
Yeah.
And in Canada, we have all of that trust and we don't want to break that particular trust, especially when it comes to food, right?
Yeah.
Because we all have to eat.
Time, yeah.
Right.
So let's eat more chicken, support Canada.
That's right.
Eat more local chickens.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. All right.
Actually, Jimmy inspired us as well. You said your father inspired you. You inspired us and everybody, I think.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right. So, Jimmy, good to talk to you. Okay.
Okay.
And then, so it's a nice talk, and I hope everybody is safe and healthy for the time. All right. Take care. Bye.
Okay. Same to you guys.
Bye.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Jimmy again.